We've named rock for the October window, and let's talk about this, guys. If you're new to the channel, this is the African channel. We do primarily Canadian and African content because we're going to be the Africans. We're going to do both. So if you like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Woso fans, where you at? This one's for you. We're going to talk about this roster because it has come with its talking points. And I think it will be very fun to kind of review and see which things stood out in this roster. I mean, there are things that I like about it, there are things I didn't. I didn't really have a chance to look at it as it came out yesterday. I was literally mashing potatoes, the cook in my house. On that note, happy Turkey Day, happy Thanksgiving, happy Indigenous Day for all those of you out there. Whatever you celebrate this weekend, think about it. Think about those who are affected by it, and keep on trying to make the world a better place. But let's get to this roster. We'll talk about it, what we see, what we like, what we don't like, and go from there. So the women's roster is as follows: 24 players: Marielle Ledoux, Emily Burns, Gabby Carl, Zara Shavashi, Sydney Collins, Sabrina D'Angelo, she could do no wrong, Jessie Fleming, Julia Grossa, Jordan Heidema, Kaylee Hunter, Florian Jourde, Marie Levasseur, Ashley Lawrence, Adriana Leon, Nichelle Prince, Emma Regan, Jade Riviere, Jade Rose, Kaylin Sheridan, Olivia Smith, Janine Sonis, Evelyn Viens, Holly Ward, and Shalina Zadorsky. Big roster. They're in Europe. My one thing is when you have friendlies in a spot, go peruse in their farmers market, Go and do what the locals do. I said this when the Canadian men were in Europe. There would have been a great chance to see players like Matteo De Brienne. And in this case, we are seeing some more European-based players. We have Marie Levasseur, who's there. Emily Burns, who's coming in because Luciane, who is at Juve, is injured and will be out for a while. So we'll probably see another goalkeeper, Casey Stoney said in a press conference, in the next window, the Japan window. So congratulations, Emily Burns, for getting a look here. And then you also have Florian Joel, newly to PSG, starring already, has a goal there. Happy to see that for the player. A player, when you think about her time during in the U20s, because she had 2 cycles in U20s, she was surrounded by a lot of players. She's on that U20 side that went 3 up and 3 down, lost in 22. That team with Michaela Smalls. But for Canadian national team players, famously, you had Simia Wujo as well as Jade Rose from that side. And, of course, Olivia Smith. And then she's also on the team that came later with that group, which you've heard me talk. I'm very high on that 2023-24 group, right? The Ella Autis, the Naya Roses, and co. All that roster. I'm sure I'll click a video of me talking and gushing about them in there and it. But this roster is interesting. It's getting a lot of talk, especially in the Canadian Woso circles, mainly due to the conversation that was we're looking for players to really pick up their form. Now, after the last window, we did see them lose 3-0 to the US. And that is kind of the last taste that a lot of Woso Canadian fans have in their mouth. So they're looking for players who want to push. Now, it should be noted because of the collegiate, the NCAA season that's going on right now, a lot of the collegiate players aren't available. So players like Jeanette Okiki from that U20, this recent U20 side, Kayla Briggs, as well as players like Annabelle Chukwu, who I'm sure many of us are waiting to come and break into this roster, are excited to see. But they won't be there. I wouldn't be surprised if that is more of a November call-up, potentially, just to kind of see players come in and play. That might be a fun November call up for them to come in right before their tournament kicks off and the likes. But I'd be very curious to see what that November roster looks like. Welcome back, Sydney Collins, after years of rehab, back on the pitch. I think she is a good player. It's interesting. You look at some of the fullbacks, especially on the right side, Gabby Carl, Sydney Collins, Jade Riviere. Like, those are 3 players who all kind of took over for spaces that weren't available for them, right? When Riviere was injured, Carl was available and was stepping up, and then Bev Priestman brought in Sidney Collins, who also played at the level. So on the right side, it gets very fascinating. I think, though, you're going to have a nice battle for fullback depth because I may be preemptively talking about this, but we do need to start to talk about who is the understudy for Ashley Lawrence. Not that we're expecting her to hang up the boots anytime soon, but who is that player that you're starting to prep, get them some minutes in that high stakes area so that they can actually perform well? That I'm curious about. Kaylee Hunter, I was curious to see what would happen with her. Um, she's U17 standout, wasn't released by the club. Also, something that I've had conversations off air, but it's fun that I actually get to have it here. We're finally in an era in Canada where the national development centers don't actually control, it's the clubs. And so when you look at it, think of it this way, right? We could have tournaments, which we're about to have. Our U17 is about to go out with arguably our best U17 not released. Them opting for club football over anything. Now, it does run into the playoffs for the NSL, so I would understand why they wouldn't want to have one of their best players, the second leading scorer in the league, to come in. And it does bring up a point with her, which I'm excited. I'm not sure, and this will be a little bit of a controversial thought. Yes, she's performing well. To me, I'm not sure. It's always, and I don't want to downplay the value and the honor of being called up for your national team. But for me, I'm always in this conversation where it's, are if you're not going to actually give them a run, yes, training is important. Yes, all those things do matter. The experience, the exposure to see what the level are at, those things are important because you need to evaluate the player. That's what the coaching staff has. We as fans, we only have the games itself to evaluate players. And so for us, it's tough to really go one way or the other. But I do find it hard sometimes when you look at some of these young players who will come into camps and they aren't actually given a run. And I think that is where it's difficult for me. Right. I'm not saying Kaylee Hunter isn't deserving of a call up. I think she more than deserves a call up based off of her play, based off of the potential she has. But if we're going to have her in a camp, and I make the Annabelle Chukwu comparison, she played, what, 30 minutes against Costa Rica? We could have really seen what her level was. Even if we gave her a 10-minute cameo against these states, we didn't get to see that. So Chukwu came, we finally got her in because she had a good U20s. And to me, that's just the one concern. I love to see new players into the squad, but I also love to see them, hey, it's free adversity. Let's see how they react to it. And so that's the one concern with Kaylee Hunter is it's great that she's there, but are we going to see enough for her to actually play and play well? The other interesting thing is they have her, Casey Stoney said she has her profiling as a bit of a 10, which maybe for me, my beautiful future Canadian women's national team roster of the future has Olivia Smith in the 10th spot, Kaylee Hunter on one wing, Florian Jordan on another wing, and then Annabelle Chukwu up top. That I'm saying it. That's my beautiful front four attacking foursome as a 9 winger, and 10. I think Liv as a 10 could do that. But also, if you go Jordan, Smith, and Hunter in that backline supporting, all three of them could play anywhere across that attacking midfield. So it really isn't that big of a deal. It's just more of a curious, okay, you have Hunter as a 10, which means that you've put Olivia Smith more as a striker or as a 9. But if you think of her as a striker, I would love to see Smith as 9 because we saw that in the U20s where she would sit back as a 10 and sometimes go up to the wing, and then Jordan would come inside as the 10. They'd be interchangeable. I think you could have an interchangeable front three supporting an Annabelle Chukwu who could be again, that's my team of the future. Gotta get excited about it. We're gonna relax, okay? We're gonna relax it here. Emma Regan back from the NSL, Holly Ward as well. The big talking point has been no DB Pridham, which to me is a little bit curious, especially when you look at some of the reasoning given for other players who are performing well. And what do you really have to lose, right? To use a male comparison, I just saw Mateta get a call up at 28 for the French men's national team, and he scored a goal. And you're telling me a team that's been devoid of goals couldn't use the leading goal scorer. Now, yes, this might come across as a bit of a, hey, we need to prop up the league. And I'm not trying to prop up the league, but you have rewarded Holly Ward for her good play. You've rewarded Emma Regan for her good play. You're rewarding Kaylee Hunter for her good play. Why does DB Pridham not get that same love and shout out? I mean, when you look at her over the season, you have her at 18 goals. She leads the leagues in goals. And so as a result, it's really something that is a little bit confusing. Every coach has their players. And so I'm never going to lose too much sleep over the idea of every coach having players that they like. But just the idea of not being able to have your leading goal scorer for that league is a little bit surprising to me. It's a little bit surprising. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it, but it's something that I'm watching because it's a player who's just been scoring goals and you can't use that. And especially in the light of having a full conversation saying we want players who are performing well. I don't think, I know Nichelle has had a good run, but she's at a loaded team and in Kansas City. And so minutes aren't going to always come. We don't, every team's going to have that vibes person. But at this point, you have 2 windows left, which means now you have 1 window left to really look at players and prepare. And this is my one criticism I had with Bev. I'm going to kind of having it with Casey Stoney. Bev spent the year before the World Cup, and we didn't really explore the depth of roster outside of injuries where we really had to. In this case, yes, we've seen more players, but it kind of feels in no fault of our own to an extent. We've kind of let the year go by waiting for players to get healthy. And that's a little bit unfortunate because we didn't really explore some of the players. And even though we had them in camp, we didn't actually get them in to the pitch and see what they could do. Some of them we did, but others we were looking and saying, I wish we could have seen a little bit more. Of note, Chloe Lacasse was called up, but then the team before decided in Utah not to release her as she's just fresh from injury and wanted to watch her minutes. So maybe she's a November call up, and that's something we'll look at. But that being said, Zadorsky, Ward, Vienne, Sona, Smith, Sheridan, Rose, Riviere, Regan, Prince, Leon, Lawrence, Levasseur, Jord, Hunter, Haidema, Grosso, Fleming, D'Angelo, Colin, Shavoshi, Carl, Burns, and Alidu. That's your 24. Wozo fans in Canada, let me know, what are you excited about? What are you curious about? Are you disappointed that a name didn't get called up? I would have loved to see some of those collegiate players get called. However, they don't have that access, but that's something we'll have to wait and see and look for. So you let me know what you are looking for. And as always, I will stop talking right now.